In this chapter, we're going to be taking a look at HTML tables, and they're basically our first big containers. Tables can be used to display just about anything you want: text, images, lists, other types of text formats, but they're intended for data. So that's the way we're going to be using them for our examples. Now I've got my Chapter 6 folder open, and to get things started, I'd like to open the tryout tables HTML file. I'll open it up here in the browser first, and you can see we've got a lot of data here, but it's very unorganized and hard to read. So let's go open it up in our text application. And here we can see what was really intended. We've got some temperature and rainfall data for different seasons in San Francisco, and you can see that this is not going to be displayed well just by using a simple list. We're going to need something a little bit more robust. A table allows us to arrange all this data in rows and columns. Now, the first thing that we want to do when looking at a table is set up the basic tags. And structure-wise, the table tags are a little bit like the lists in that we're going to need more than one tag to get the structure to work. For starters, we need a table tag that encloses the entire set of data. So I'll start up right here at the top and type my table tag. And of course, we're going to need a close table tag. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and we'll put it down below the last piece here. Now, I mentioned that our tables are going to be arranged in rows and columns, and we're going to have tags for each one of those. So let's just take a look at the first set of data right up here at the top. I've got a season, high temp, low temp, and average rainfall, and these are going to be headers for the columns in my table. So I'm going to have that constitute one row, and then we'll have each of the seasons follow on with a row after that. Now, we designate a row with a TR tag. So we'll type that in. I'll put it at the beginning of that row, and then I'll go down to the end and add a close. And just so we're arranging it nicely, let's put our table row tags at the beginning of each one of the seasons of data. I'll just copy the first one, and I'll go down and paste it in front of winter. We'll put one in front of spring and summer and fall. And I'll do the same thing with the close tags. I'll just copy that off the first one, and we'll use that to close off each one of our rows in our table. Now, basically, you can see that we're blocking out data by using these tags. To make columns, we're going to be setting up a second tag, and that's a TD tag. That's short for table data. Each one of these items is going to be in its own column. So I'm just going to start each one out with a data tag. That's TD. And of course, at the end of it, I'm going to close off that TD tag as well. And now, of course, we're going to need more TD tags surrounding each one of our other elements. So you can see that there's a lot of tags that make up our typical tables. I'm just going to take the starter tag from this first one. Let me clean up some spaces first. I'll copy that, and I'll just paste that in front of the rest of my table elements. So we're going to have table data for each one of those items, and we'll go down to the second row and do the same thing. And then we'll set up the same thing for spring, summer, and fall as well. Now, of course, we do need closed table data tags on all those, so I'm just going to copy the first one, and we'll paste those on all of our elements. Okay, and finally finished. Let's go and save our page. And then we'll go out to the browser and refresh the page and see our changes. Now you can see what's happening. All of our data is lined up and it's arranged in little columns here. Now it's still a little bit close together, but you can see that the column is as wide as the widest thing in it. And in our case, it's mostly the headers that are here at the top. You can also see that the two statements that I left out, year-round San Francisco temperatures and don't forget a coat, were actually on top and bottom of the data. But since we didn't have any tags in that last element designating it as another row, you can see that it actually appears at the top instead of the bottom. So let's go back and let's set up the top and bottom rows. Now for the top, I want something a little bit different. Our tables have the capacity of having a caption added to them, and if you're going to use one, they should be right at the top of the table. So I'm going to go in here right inside the table, and I'm going to add a caption tag. Now, of course, you can only have one caption per table, but by default, it'll center that table up nicely over the top of the table. I'll add a closed caption tag. And now let's go down and do something about that last row. Now you can see it's just hanging out here by itself, but it's still inside of the table. So if I want it to be part of the table, I should add a normal TR and TD tag set just for that piece of text. So let's drop that in. I'll add the TR tag first. And of course, I need a closed TR. And I'll add a TD tag here. Now you'll notice most developers will do a little bit of what I did here, which is indent the contents of a table row so that you can easily group those elements together and find what you're looking for. Let's save our changes, and let's go see what this looks like. Now you can see my caption is dropped right up here at the top. The rest of my data is all arranged nicely in rows, and you can see that this is dropped in a row right at the bottom. Now one thing we can notice here is that my first column is a little bit wider than it was before. And basically what you'll find is that tables are kind of elastic. They'll stretch to fit whatever you put inside of them. Now we've almost got the basic table set up, but there are a couple of attributes that you probably want to know about that go along with the basic tags. So let's go and try those both out. Now the first one is borders. We can go directly to the table tag right at the very start and add in a border attribute. It really only has two values in HTML5. You can either leave it blank, which indicates a default, or you can put the number 1 in it, which indicates a thickness of the line. But either way, what we're going to get is a border around the table. So let's just save our changes and take a look at how our table looks now. I'll refresh, and here we can see the border dropped around our table. It's kind of clunky, but like most other things in HTML5, we can enhance this style or completely replace this style by using CSS. What I will point out is this one at the bottom. Now notice each one of our rows has 4 TDs or 4 data items in it, except for the bottom one. You can see what happens when we leave out the table data tags. We just have an empty space where that table cell would normally be. Now what I'd like to do is use the other attribute for our table tags, and that is a call span attribute. That attribute is specifically used on a table data tag, and we can use it to stretch a table cell out to extend as many columns as we want. In this case, I'd like the table cell to stretch across the bottom of the table. So let's go back to our code, and I'll just go down to that table cell that we created, and we'll add in the call span attribute. I've got 4 columns in my table, and I want that cell to stretch across all 4, so I'll set it equal to 4. Let's save that change, and we'll go back and take a quick look at our table. Now you can see that this column does stretch all the way across the table with no breaks in it. And you can also see that it resized the first column since this text isn't stretching that first column out anymore.